existing coding, so forget like merging the two, just existing coding education, what do you see some of the shortcomings being? So let's not worry about the intersection between coding and math and physics, but just if a kid wants to learn Python or web development or game development, where do you see space for improvement within that?
Look, if you look at the data, you will see that kids below the age of 10 have a very positive relationship with coding, or not more so a positive relationship. Above the age of 10, they have a lower relationship, or more people dislike coding. Or to be more concrete, if you take a look at the data, just the number of girls that are interested in coding. So we have parents that reach out to us asking us for coding classes at Strive. We write down whenever they reach out, we take a note, are they asking for their son or daughter? If you take a look at the graph, 7, 8, 9 years old, the percentage of parents that are asking for girls is around 52%, 50%, 48%. So it goes down just a little bit, but pretty 50-50. Something happens in I think it's grade 7. Something happens in grade 7 and it becomes 90-10. All of the inquiries that come in is 90% for sons, 10% for girls. Grade 8, something happens again. It recovers a little bit, so it becomes 30% girls, 70% for boys. But then after grade 8, 9, 10, 11, it's just a downward slope from there. So there's a lot of things to unpack here, and I'm not going to do this justice. So the stat that I've given, there's a lot more to talk about. But a couple things. One is I think parents are more willing to accept when a daughter tells them, I'm not a coding person. Coding, I took coding, I didn't enjoy it. And they're like, okay, cool, my daughter's not a coding person, I won't go back. I say this because there are parents who reach out to us, they say, I have a son, he wants to do coding, and we always make sure to ask the people that come in and say, hey, is there anybody else at home who would want to do coding? And sometimes the parents say there's a daughter, and we say, we'll also offer her a free trial class. But they're like, no, she doesn't like coding. On the flip side, when parents reach out for boys, and the boy says they don't like coding, parents will push back a little bit more. They'll be like, no, try one more class at least, try another class. So they're not as ready to accept. And again, I'm not generalizing here by any means whatsoever. I think this is one of the very small things that contribute to this. But the root cause, I don't want to get into this part. The cause I want to get into is this aspect, this conclusion that I'm not a coding person. Where does that come from? Because that's the issue, be it boy or girl. That I'm not a coding person, I think, comes from the fact that the way it's taught. Coding it's an experiential learning. It's a play. It's not something to be memorized. Like in India, they used to teach how to use a computer by writing down, I will press the Windows key, then I will press the start button. And they're writing down the process to shut down a computer, right? And that's how coding is taught. Coding is taught in a strict way, do X, Y, Z, right? Follow through. If you make a mistake, the child is made to feel stupid or incompetent. And all of the play is sapped out of it. What's interesting, in Scratch, it's there. And I think I respect the people that made Scratch so much because it's all about using code to make games. And there's a very nice and visual output on the right-hand side. But we lose all of that when you move to script programming. You do Python and JavaScript. How many times have you seen a child do Python and JavaScript and seen a visual output on the right side? Never. And I think that's what we do differently because when a child comes up and does Python, they're typing, it is so much harder for a child. Like imagine if you don't know how to type, you have to now type the letters, but also the colons, the semicolons, the tilde, what's that one below the tilde, Tamir?
I can't remember that.
Yeah, we can't even name the keys that the kids have to press, right? So it's tremendously difficult, but you give them this visual output, it becomes more fun, it's engaging, the child can change the colors of the output, and that makes a difference. It makes it maybe not an intellectual difference, but it definitely makes a difference on how the students relate to the subject.
Entirely. I think what's at risk with coding is a similar thing that's happening with math, and it breaks my heart when I hear it. I'm not a coding person, because so many people say, oh, I'm not a math person. Math just never clicked for me. And the only reason that happens is because of a school system which sucked the joy out of math. It made it a very robotic, challenging subject, where some people worked well within that dynamic and some people didn't. We just kind of pushed every single student into this one-size-fits-all way of teaching math. And because that is the norm with math, it's starting to happen with coding as well. And the risk is that we're going to have a lot of people that won't know how to code because they told themselves, oh, I'm just not a coding person. And because of how important it's going to be in the future, it's highly problematic.
Yeah. And on that, Tamir, I think like the solution is parents or people should be very, or even the industry should be very careful about the first interaction of a student with coding. Because that has the potential to make or break the relationship with the subject for life. Because once a child concludes, I'm not a coding person, and once a parent accepts that their child is not a coding person, forever, whenever they will be given the opportunity to either engage in code or engage in something technical, they will fall back on their conclusion and never engage. And I think that's dangerous given that the world is becoming more and more technical. Like I see it in my classmates. If my classmates are listening, I'm sorry, but so many of you guys are like, I'm not a technical person. And my classmates at business school, classic, MBAs, refused to engage with anything that even seemed technical, even if it was very simple and easy to pick up. And I respect Stanford actually for forcing all MBAs to go through this one technical course. And I think that lifted the veil for a lot of them because they were forced to go through it.
Yeah, and again, just the link to emotions comes back to me here, because just you've tied this emotional label with coding, because so to link it to how people relate to math, like I got 60%, 50% in math, I could never get a higher mark. I'm bad at math, and I'm not a math person. I'm not going to pursue a career in math. I'm not going to pursue anything that might involve math, is the classic one that we hear today. And that will happen, or is at risk of happening with coding, if we're not able to show the different ways in which it can be explored, the different learning styles, and give people a positive emotional experience with the topic and subject.